I would run with my coffee and sit there with my jazz music in the background and with my green pen and my notebook, and I would just write, write, write. And I didn't know what I was writing, but I was just, kind of. I think grief and pain are so powerful if you use them well. It's
Absolutely.
the most powerful thing that you're ever going to feel. And I can stepping back from that frenetic energy, that equation that I created with my acting career, I needed to step back from.
There's a life after of swelling pride, of unbridled hope, of clear blue skies and palettes so bright, of wisdom gained, of freedom, of joy, of unfiltered dreams and melodies unchained. There's a life after. Me too. Oh, beautiful.
You've picked out two of the most, the ones that I really,
Oh,
really.
you can just see that I'm tearing up. They're really, really beautiful because each of them has spoken to me and spoken to me a language that's very close to me in my own personal language. May I request you to read one more for our listeners, please? Hi, in today's episode, we have with us Sandhya Mridul, a celebrated Indian actor, poet, and performer, known for her versatile roles across television, cinema, and the literary world. She made a TV debut with Banegi Apni Baat and earned acclaim for roles in films like Satya and Page 3. Finalist on Chalak Dikla Ja Season 2, Sandhya has explored acting, dance, and now she's also gotten into writing. Her debut poetry book, Untamed, reflects her journey through love, loss, and self discovery. Respected for her authenticity, Sandhya inspires with her commitment to creativity and her ability to embrace vulnerability and strength. And it is such an honor for me to have you with me today. Your book, Untamed. Of course, I got down to reading it, Sandhya, and congratulations for your debut book. And let's just start with what inspired you to write Untamed.
I think more than inspiration, it was a necessity. It was my need to do a lot of work on myself, my need to heal from everything that was seeming traumatic to me, my need to pick up the rug and pull out whatever dirt there was under it. I went hammer and tongs, I think 10 years ago into, because I knew I was not okay. And I knew that I was, you know, I had everything, but I was not okay. Uh, and I had this really cool image of this cool, bindas girl and, lively, bubbly, and whatever, what have you, whatever part that I had played, I was for everybody. And to myself, I almost fell for that image myself. Uh, but then I started kind of taking a reality check. At the peak of fame, I realized that my heart was not okay. And I think it started then, though writing did not. It would come like suddenly two lines here, and then nothing would come, and then two lines there, and I would forget about it. In fact, the first thing that I ever wrote was in Hindi. There were just four lines, uh, two couplets that contradicted each other. I can recite them for you because that's the
Please
only
do.
one that I remember. Uh, this was when I was going internal and everybody was misunderstanding me, and I was alone. And I woke up and these lines came to me where I said, खामोशी की वजह मत पूछो, लफ्ज़ों की कोई अहमियत नहीं. And then immediately 5 minutes later, it came to me, कौन कहता है लफ्ज़ों की अहमियत नहीं, मेरे कानों में गूंजती हुई तन्हाई से कोई पूछे. And I still feel it when I recite this because this really came from nowhere. And and then over the years, months, something would come, and and I think this writing is more the process, the entire journey, as I've said in my note. It's my journey. It's everything that I've felt there in form of, you may call it poetry. I call it my narrative. Uh, and yeah, that's the best way I can say this.
There are many, many layers actually to what you've just now also said. You've spoken about Tanhai, you've also spoke about words, you've also spoken about, Khamoshi. So they're all, they are all somewhere contradictory to each other. And yet it's such an amalgamation. Also, you described Untamed as a palpable journey in words, right? So can you elaborate for our listeners, what does it mean? So when they pick up the book, what is it that they will find from the author that you are, from the writer that you are?
They will find something that they have felt, at least up to now. everyone who's read it and spoken to me about this book says that they've resonated with it. Not maybe everything that I have written, but some things have hit them hard because they've connected with it. And even my friends who are reading out my poetries and posting them today are picking out their own and anything that's resonating with them. And it's uh, even as Shavana ji said at my launch, and when she read the poem, that I reminded her of things that she had felt, that we had kind of stopped trying to feel, that we were not kind of allowing ourselves to face up to vulnerabilities that we were not owning. So I think Dia also put it very aptly when she said, it's memories and feelings and nostalgia and things that you've been through. So what I love and what I hope for with this book is resonance, some sort of hope, some sort of belief that there is a redemption if we work on ourselves, and that we are alone, but it's okay. That silence is good. Words are good too. And life will inspire you if you're okay with its contradictions.
So you know that you've written a book that is so close to my heart because, you know, especially How Strong, which I will read in a bit, has been, it really touched me. I was just joking up when I was reading this because we both have gone through very similar themes in our life, which is death, which is grief, which is loss, which is healing. So how did you choose these, as your first debut book and themes as intense as these?
Because it needs to be talked about. These are things that we need to address without shame, without feeling weak, without being uh, hurt about being judged. And I went through that phase of being judged when I was, Arey, yaar, Sandy, yaar, you're the must one. Why are you getting so intense? Why are you getting so serious? No, why not? When I post about self help, when I post about mental health issues, and I've been doing so for a very long time now, not because it's a fad to do it now. I've been doing it for a while now, even before COVID, because I was just tired of people saying, oh, it's just your imagination, or it's not really happening. It's hurtful because there are a lot of people going through a lot of things. There are a lot of people who've lost a lot, including us. And we think it's brave to deliver on people's expectations of us being okay and being cool all the time. No, I don't think it's okay. I think we need to talk about it. And I think that there is nothing wrong in expression and vulnerability, being broken or being fragile. It's all right. And the minute we say to ourselves, it's all right, we will find something where we will be all right. Because nobody will ever tell us we're all right when we are not. And that's also not an expectation we should have. Nobody will grieve for you. Nobody will grieve with you. Somebody might hold your hand and move on, and that's okay. It'll hurt. You will feel alone, but you have to make it okay for yourself. And that's all I mean to say.
So I just feel that grieving always needs a witness because, grieving alone all by yourself is a very difficult journey.
It's very
Very,
hard.
very hard. And I've been there myself. I'm still there. It's not this that I have healed out of,
Yeah.
my own humongous losses in life, Sandhya. But, talking about death isn't easy. It's not a subject that most people, speak very openly about. It's a subject that you just mourn and you keep quiet, and then you don't talk about it. And both you and me have written my debut book is about the passing of my father. Uh, you know, you've spoken about your brother, and how it impacted you. So, how did this personal loss really shape Untamed? Was it immediately after that, or did it take you some time to ruminate, think about it, and then you wrote it?
I've been writing for a while before I lost Bhaiya. Uh, but that really, I think, broke me completely. There were already a lot of cracks showing up that I'd been working on, and I was allowing myself to break. I was saying, okay, break. It's all right. It's all right. Collapse. Only then you can build. But with him going, and he was actually the poet, and he wrote beautifully, and I hope to release his book and publish his book soon. And he was always my friend, my inspiration. And with him going, it was like everything just broke, and everything just started coming out. Um, and that's when I wrote furiously more. That's when that became my respite. I would run with my coffee and sit there with my jazz music in the background and with my green pen and my notebook, and I would just write. And I didn't know what I was writing, but I was just, kind of. I think grief and pain are so powerful if you use them well.
Absolutely.
It's the most powerful thing that you're ever going to feel. Not always, not definitely in a positive way, always, you know, but you can try and turn it around and you will never forget the person who's left you. But at least you will be able to lose the anger, the rage that you feel, because those are unsaid sentiments when somebody dies on you. There's rage because you're angry with everything and everyone, and I wanted that rage not to poison me, but to get out of my system. And I saw the collective grief. And you know what really bothered me more? Since COVID, everybody started losing so many people, okay? And where I thought everybody would become more sensitive to death, people there became a sort of, I think, coming out of fear, not in a bad way, but there was more apathy because people just don't want to talk about it, didn't want to hear about it, didn't want to address it. Or they had not lost anybody, so they didn't know what it felt like, you know? And I felt very angry about that. I felt very frustrated, let's put it that way. And I felt like people were going through humongous losses and we were not being there for each other because collective energy is important. Because, like you said, grief needs a witness. We need to be seen, we need to be heard. Everybody needs that in loss. You can deal with it alone, but at least you need to know that people are hearing you, and strangers heard me, and now with this book, everybody hears me, everybody hears us. And that's what I wanted. I don't just speak for myself. I know I speak for a lot of people. And that's what gave me the courage to put this out at the cost of it being so personal.
Hats off, Sandhya, because I think women like you, and maybe in my own way, I would also add that, it took me a lot to write actually about my relationship with my father. What has your writing process been like? Have you just mentioned that you were jotting down here and there snippets, of poetry, whenever those thoughts and those feelings that came in. But how did you put all of this together, to form the complete book, especially for a lot of people who don't know how to go ahead and create? It's a book of many, many poems altogether. I mean, I was going through it and I didn't know which one to choose because I would love to read one that choked me up, and but before I read, I would like you to share with our listeners and our viewers what was the process.
Initially it was a very scattered process. Then I think during COVID, it turned to journaling. And the minute I would journal, things, the heart would open and something by the end of the day would come. And I started actually maintaining 2 diaries on that table that I would sit at after all my chores were done because I was alone. I was locked up alone. And I would sit down and I would journal when I felt like it. And then if something came, I'd open the other notebook and I'd start writing in it. So at least what I did was I started writing everything in one notebook. And I also took that time during COVID to collect whatever I could find from here and there and put it into that notebook. But I still wanted to do it with pen and paper because I think what I feel with pen and paper, I'm old school. So I had to do that in my cursive writing. I had to write. I wasn't really sure it could become a book, but somewhere in the last 1 year, it just started happening organically. And I made a shift from Bombay to Delhi. And I can stepping back from that frenetic energy, that equation that I created with my acting career, I needed to step back from. And then this book I just started transferring all of this into an iPad. And then very organically, somebody made me meet a publisher. He said, I love this. Can I read it? And he said, my God, I love it. Can I take it? And I said, okay. I didn't even try and shop for it or market it. I just, it just kept happening and I kept just allowing it. And everybody said, oh, you could have got a bigger publisher. And this. I said, this guy loved it. I like him. And I said, take it. He's a small boutique publisher. I gave it, you know. And then came the tough part where, PDFs and Word and all that technology that I hate. But I didn't want to make anybody do this for me. I wanted it to be me. So as much as I hated and screamed and raved and ranted, I put all of this, So first I typed everything I had written from the notebook into my iPad. Then I segregated it according to moods. I threw out a lot. I had 350 odd. I threw out a lot. I had about 340, 350 poems. I edited, I rewrote, I chopped, I cut, I created PDFs according to moods and journey, and how it began and where it went. And, so this year, all that work was done. And then in July, and I really didn't know what was going to happen. This was never a dream. It was never a dream till I had the book in my hand. That's when it became my dream, you know. And when I see my friends read it and strangers read it and just send me videos on their own accord, you know, tagging me, I hear my words, and it's so nice to hear it from somebody else because they're saying it the way they feel it and what they felt. And I've, I don't know what success is, but I think this book is already a success for me in that sense,
Of course,
you
it is.
know.
Absolutely. To be vulnerable and especially being a star like you, to really put your vulnerability out there is a huge sign of success as somebody extremely confident of themselves. So, you know what? I would love to read when I opened it and the first one that came to me. So, do you mind if I read one?
No, no, please, I love it. Please read.
Okay. I would like to read the first one, which is How Strong. I related to it a lot because I've seen my mother mourn.
Suffer.
Yeah, suffer and mourn. She still
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
How strong? How strong do you have to be to see the vacant look in your mother's eyes? How strong to put the light back in her shattered heart? Dark with fear and pain and loss, how strong to not collapse, break into a million pieces in front of her? Because she's your mother too. How strong to tell yourself she's his mother and he's gone? How strong is enough? How strong is strong? How strong do you need to be to see a photograph of your brother and not feel your heart smash in your body, your breath jam in your throat, your whole life crumble into pieces? How strong does one have to be? To pick up those pieces again and again, how strong is strong? How strong do you have to be? To step out into the world again with a limb missing, to feel whole again. How strong to cope every broken moment. How strong to stay afloat even as the waves of grief engulf you and you feel like you're choking and crashing. How strong to feel, to love, to heal, to live truly. How strong is strong? Oh my God, I'm just, I've got tears in my eyes because it's, I relate to it. You can just see that, I relate to it because how strong can one be, to deal with something that is so extremely close to you and to know that, it's just going to remain like a beautiful memory forever. And you can't touch, you can't talk, you'll just imagine them. It's like a landmine, I feel, that you're standing on your own emotions and
Yeah,
break you into multiple,
absolutely.
yeah.
Just holding up, and if I may interrupt, thank you. I wish I could give you a hug because I needed to. Uh, I know what you feel because you have to have lost somebody that you love so dearly to feel this. And you know what? The thing is that the word strong is so misunderstood.
Oh, yes.
My reason for also writing this was because you often hear, hey, Sandy, be strong. Hey, so and so, be strong. Be strong. What is strong? I'm strong. I'm very strong, you know? And just because I cry and I break and I own my fragility and my brokenness does not make me weak. So I want that word strong to be redefined, to be understood as it is, what it's meant to be. Strong is not just saying, hey, let's party, let's drink, I'm good, everything's good. You know, no, it's not. It's not. It's to feel everything and still hold up and still create something and still be there for people that you love dearly. You know, all of this is strong.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, I feel somewhere, Sandhya, that, people keep telling me that I'm strong. And, but how much strong can I be? I too I'm tired of being strong.
yes, and that's the other side.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know that I feel you because that's the other part of it. People saying, my God, you're so strong. No, I can't. I'm breaking.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you completely. This poem is about both those things where, people say, oh, you're so strong. And or be strong, or how strong are you? That word gets onto your nerves after some time.
Absolutely, it gets to my nerves when people say, "Oh, that you're a strong woman and you'll be able to
Yeah,
manage this."
yeah.
No, I was not born strong. I was born
I'm not.
with all of those,
Yeah.
frailties of life and
And
fragility.
I'm barely managing on some days,
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I hear you. And I hope you feel stronger with this poem, whatever that means.
Yes, I have been
Uh,
reading and I've been smiling also for the Two for Joy. That was so close to my
yeah.
heart because even now, wherever I travel and I see a Two for Joy, it's like I just know that the day is going to be good. And it was,
Yeah.
see, this one has also like,
I, I'm a big believer.
I
I
was
love it.
huge believer of Two for Joy.
I love it.
And I quietly do a kiss, saying because I would,
Same. I also, and I have one or two friends who do the same. Let me tell you, but this will happen. And
yeah,
I'm just saying, oh, nobody else think that I'm doing it to death.
exactly. And
But
I'm,
I'm walking in the park, suddenly I do.
yeah, me too. And I was very stressed if I see one of them because I
Yeah.
know one for sorrow.
Yeah. And I tell you a couple of days ago, what is 3 for?
Three for letter and four for boy.
That's, isn't it? So recently I was watching something. I've always said 3 for letter, 4 for boy. Recently I was watching something and they said 3 for girl, 4 for boy. And I said, oh my God, have I always got this
No, I
wrong?
always knew it's three for letter and four for boy.
Yeah, and I recently saw it in some show, some I don't know, some show where they said 3 for girl, and I said, oh my God, I got it wrong. But you know something? Interestingly, I wanted to name this book uh, 1 for sorrow, 2 for love, or 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy. I was actually kind of struggling with that title, but it didn't work out. And then I was thinking of Bear, and then when Untamed came, I know it
Yeah,
was what I
Untamed is
wanted to.
beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Would you like to read one of yours that, of course, I picked out, I would love you to read one that's very close to you.
Uh okay. Strangely, I don't have my own book, but I have it on Kindle. So I'm going to just actually the one that I always read out, and that I also read at my launch was How Strong, because that that's what I wrote. Okay, I'll just read what opened first. First thing that's opened, I think. I see myself. I'm at the crossroads of words. Straight lines do nothing for me. Pulling out jumbled letters from the depths of my chaos, putting together a cache of memories, one word at a time, gathering the disarray of my feelings and disconnected thoughts as I go along, creating art with my life. I see myself. They can't shout me anymore. I'm gathered.
Oh, it's beautiful. So, gathered would also be healing, right, Sandhya? So, your book was really born out of a journey of the gift of grief, as I always say, and then the healing. So, how do you think that writing can be a tool, for today's generation to really navigate mental health challenges? Because the whole world today is really grappling. Just yesterday I was reading about this boy who actually went on to camera before he hung himself, a young techie. And,
Oh,
there
God.
was no witness to his ending his life. And what would you like to tell youngsters who probably don't know how to grapple with so many emotions?
You know, I always believe in giving tools. Uh, I mean, we can always say a whole lot of stuff, but the actual tool that I found was writing. I didn't intend to be a writer.
Same.
Journaling is an extremely powerful thing because you end up writing and saying things that you did not know were there. And also without shame, you can rage on that paper. You can do whatever. You can be bitter. There's no judgment, you know. The only person judging you is you, which over time you stop doing. But you start seeing the difference, and you're not to read those journals. You're just supposed to puke on them. You just write. I've not found a more powerful tool than that. And had I not journaled, I would have not made this book. I would have not gotten to the innards of my system, my soul. I would have not connected with myself. Uh, Journaling is what really has helped me over everything else. Of course, leading a good lifestyle, eating healthy, yoga, all those things I understand. But when it comes to emotional disturbances, writing is more powerful than speaking. And I would ask. I go to colleges and I speak there, and I speak about strength and courage and grief and social media. I've been giving talks, and I always address this, and I always tell them that many years ago, somebody gifted me a book called The Artist's Way, and it had exercises in it. And I said, okay, let's play with this book. But it helped because it started me journaling. Even when I used to journal, it used to be erratic. It made me do it every day. I still do it. I still do it. Even if I do it for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, because it's just thoughtless writing. But it's such a powerful tool. And I encourage everyone who's disturbed and feeling something to just buy your favorite color of pen, buy a lovely little notebook that you're happy to look at, and just write with your morning tea, coffee, whatever. Just write for 10 minutes. Not more than that. Just start with 10 minutes, and maybe you'll also have a book out of it, but at least it'll heal you a lot.
Absolutely. So let's just talk a little bit about your work in cinema, television, theater, OTT, and now, of course, literature. So these are diverse mediums, right? So how has each of these experience really influenced your ability to be a storyteller?
See, everything has been a part of my journey, including a corporate career that I had before becoming an actor. The choice I made to leave that for acting at a very high point of my successful point of my career. The various diverse roles that I've played, uh, you know, the characters that I've played, I've emotionally invested in. They taught me also. So many characters have taught me. They brought out different sides of me. It was all me, you know. It wasn't just me playing a character. Every part that I have played, I can stand here and say it was me. I felt it, you know. And that's why I kept trying to do different kind of parts. That's why I made myself very niche. And that's when things got very hard for me. Because at the peak of my success, I realized that I didn't want to do everything. I didn't want to do the same thing. I didn't want to sell out. I wanted to only do what was making me feel something, where I could bring something new, where I could add. So, there was a lot of rejection. There was a lot of, because at some point I was misunderstood. People didn't understand me. I started facing a lot of rejection. I was very emotionally invested in acting. I was forgetting myself. I was so emotionally invested. And it was not about being successful. It was about, I want to do good work. I want to do this. And I want to, because I was so passionate, you know. And the journey became very hard. Um, and had it not become that hard, people would just tell me, "Oh, you're making it so hard for yourself. You have everything. Just go along with what's coming. Just go along. Why are you saying there's no to this? No, do commercial cinema. Do this. Do this. Do this." I had so many voices that I had to step back and say, "No, who am I? Who am I?" And people will say, "Forget that. Yaar, kaam kar." So all those parts that I've played in various mediums, and all those parts that I've said no to, and all the people that have said no to me over the years and continue to do so, made me work on myself, because the pressure was to fit in, and I was not agreeing to. Like, I tried also after page 3, but I couldn't. It was hurting me internally. It was taking me away from my grain. And I realized that no, I can't fit in. And there's some things that need to be done to fit in, because I can't do. So you need to make a choice now, Sanjana Mridul. Step back and figure out who you really are and what you really want to do. And I think all of that, irrespective of the medium, uh, made me ask questions, made me step back, made me choose the people I'm working with, uh, to buy my own mental peace, to preserve my dignity, to preserve my authenticity, to protect my craft. Um, and all of that journey has led me here. And whatever regrets there may have been along the way, at least I kept going forward, forging forward in a path that I created solely, however hard. I made it ostensibly because everybody said, तेरा प्रॉब्लम क्या है यार, पानी ऐसे जा रहा है, तू ऐसे क्यों जा रही है? But that was not my intention. My intention was to stay true, and had I not, I would have not been here. Because
It's very,
like I said,
it's very difficult to be you, right?
it's very hard.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
very hard because everybody, as a 9N said, you see people, you don't see people as they are, you see people as we are.
Yes.
So nobody will see you the way you want them to see you. They will see you the way they see you, and that feels like rejection constantly. And you really have to grapple with it. And I grappled with it through my 30s and 40s, because I was just different. I was just weird. I was just mad. I was just crazy. I was just wild. These were the things, words, adjectives used for me, uh, which were all very judgmental at one point. And I remember turning around and telling somebody very important, fine, go ahead and judge me, but make sure that you're perfect for the rest of your life. Because I wasn't seeking perfection. I was seeking something that everybody was saying, why? Why are you doing this? Why do you have to dig up trouble? Why can't you just be? I couldn't. I couldn't. I couldn't. I needed the truth. I needed to stick with that. I think that's the kind of family I came from, probably.
That's who you are also. That's who you are. So you've been attending a lot of literary festivals and, connecting with younger readers. So what has been their perspective and their response to Untamed?
It's really been wonderful.
Oh, how lovely.
It has, I cannot explain to you through all ages. Even my Delhi launch 2 days ago, I cannot tell you, it was just, everybody said, do a bigger launch I did it in a big bookstore, lovely bookstore. And I'll tell you, it was packed up more than they imagined. But more than that, there was tears, there was laughter, there was so many people stood up and spoke, from the teacher of a university to a student to somebody's mom to somebody's daughter to men to, you know, so many people um, teared up, came to me, just wanted a hug, just wanted to talk, just wanted to. And that has been the consistent, continuous response wherever I've gone, including the Literature Festival in Dehradun, uh, including I'd gone to Ahmedabad, I'd gone to Bombay, the one I did in Delhi. I'm going to Lucknow Lit Fest now. It's it's been real. It's been very real. And I'm very happy about that. That people are interacting with me very honestly and with a lot of vulnerability.
How beautiful. How beautiful, Sandhya. Sandhya, are there any poets or writers who really inspired you? And would you like to say, anything about anyone, a poet, writer that
I just spoke about Anai Nin. I mean, I love the dark, broken, everything that she accepts and says so simply. Sylvia Plath, uh, the kind, compassion, yet straightforward Maya Angelou, Leonard Cohen,
oh, yeah, yeah.
it's, my own brother, I mean, how beautifully he wrote in two languages. He self-taught Urdu and he would write the same thing in English and there was nothing missing in either of the languages. So I think of all the people that I've read, he inspired me the most because he was also my brother and he had a huge influence on me, you know. Um, but there's so many, music has inspired me so much. I'm a girl who grew up with two older brothers, and there was always Farida Khanum playing. There was always in one brother's room, in the other brother's room, there was always Pink Floyd and Dire Straits, and you know, it's. I think music is so. There's so much poetry in music. I cannot
Absolutely.
go through a day without music. So I think there are so many uh, good writers there, and. And of course, my brother used to recite a lot of Ghalib. My nani used to recite a lot of Ghalib and Faiz and Iqbal. So I grew up with uh, listening to, uh, you know, all these people.
So, I would love to read one more, and I would request you to read one more. I'm going to read Me Too.
Oh,
This is poem number 6, Me Too. There's a life after of broken dreams, of missed opportunities, of buried rage and misplaced shame, of wasted youth, of anger, of pain, of letting go, and of great restraint. There's a life after of swelling pride, of unbridled hope, of clear blue skies and palettes so bright, of wisdom gained, of freedom, of joy, of unfiltered dreams and melodies unchained. There's a life after. Me Too. Oh, beautiful.
You picked out two of the most, the ones that I really,
Oh,
really,
you can just see that I'm tearing up. They're really, really beautiful because each of them have spoken to me and spoken to me a language that's very close to me in my own personal language. May I request you to read one more for our listeners, please, with your voice and your writing?
okay, I'm just moving to whatever page. Your head is their playground. Every swing a trigger. Play mindfully with abandon. For between the two is where it's all at. That, that you and I know nothing about. That, that we are seeking constantly. That is a game. And we must keep playing for the sake of our spirit.
Mhm. And we must keep playing, Sandhya, for the sake of our spirit. Thank you for taking all the time today to be on this podcast. It means a lot to me, and it's been an absolute honor to have you. We wish you many, many more books, many, many more absolutely amazing accolades that you've been receiving till now. And this was very, very close to my heart. And for all our listeners, the book is Untamed. Please do grab a copy and you will love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. This has really been lovely for me too. I've really felt every word that we have exchanged. So it means a lot. Thank you so much for staying true and authentic in this conversation.
Thanks.